Okay, this is the Lindstrom family Caribbean vacation, August 1980. My wife Diane right there, and that's Barry Lindstrom and Karen Lindstrom. They're all getting on the airplane. This is Ray Lindstrom, and this is one of my series of home movies going back to the 1980s. And this is a time when everybody remembers because my wife Diane just graduated from ASU Law School in Tempe, Arizona. My son graduated from 8th grade, so this was a family vacation celebrating those events. And we're going to St. Croix in the U.S. Virgin Islands, and after that we go to Antigua. First stop here is St. Croix, and this was a place we were at, a lovely resort in the Caribbean Ocean. Now, I hate to say this, but this was the last Lindstrom family vacation for the four of us, because at the end of this year, Diane and I would separate, and I would be gone, and my son would be going to a high school up in Utah. So this was it for the four of us. I'm sorry to say, but we'll forget the sadness for a moment and relive the great memories of this fine vacation. There's Diane going into our little hut. Well, it's more than a hut, I suppose. Nice, luxurious surroundings there. There's Diane, all happy after graduating from law school. Boy, that was a tough slog. And there's a lot of birds here on this island. We see a lot of wildlife. Really enjoyed ourselves while we were here. Great place. We didn't get to St. Thomas in the Virgin Islands. We were just in St. Croix. And of course, there were a lot of things to do, a lot of water sports, and a lot of animals to see. We had a great time. This is August of 1980. The Lindstrom Caribbean vacation. Now at this time, I was still with my son Barry. I was still in the advertising agency business in Phoenix. My partner Mac Jett and I had Lindstrom and Jett Advertising. We also had another company called National Consumer Events, where we did Christmas shows all over the country, and we were just getting ready to do about 12 Christmas shows in various cities all over the country this coming Christmas. And then a few days after Christmas, we filed for bankruptcy from National Consumer Events. Hey, you can't win them all, but we did a good job while we could and had a good time and met a lot of fine people. But we still had our advertising agency, and things were going to change for everybody over a period of time. There's my daughter in the water. A lot of great water sports here. We had a good time, no question about it. And if you want to relax in the sun, and there's Diane reading her book. And I thought she was through reading books after she graduated from law school. She went on to have a great career in the law. As a matter of fact, she was the lead counsel for the Steven Steinberg murder case in, not the lead counsel, but one of the defending lawyers for the Steven Steinberg murder case in Phoenix. This was the case where he murdered his wife while he was sleepwalking, and he was found not guilty because he was asleep and didn't know what he was doing. So there, and she was one of the defense attorneys. So that was a great start to her career. There we are, still in St. Croix, and visiting and seeing all the sights. My daughter was just getting ready to go into, in those days, let's see, she would have been going into 7th grade in 1980. Oh, and here now we're going to Antigua. Looks like Antigua, but it's not pronounced that. It's pronounced Antigua in the Caribbean. We stayed at the Half Moon Bay Hotel. Very fine place, quality resort. Shot some pool. All the pictures inside, of course, with my camera were very difficult because there was no lighting. We depended only on natural light. These are great 8 millimeter shots, and it's all on Kodachrome. And this was done in 1980, so that's. I'm doing this in 2016, so that means that this is 36 years old. Pretty darn good color, considering the fact of how old it is. You know, I started taking 8 millimeter photos when I was in high school, way back in the mid-1950s, and I still have those, and we're doing all these. Bob Nickel at Ping Pong Media is transferring all these to digitize them so we can put them up on YouTube and everybody can enjoy these fabulous home movies. Of course, I always I always think it's kind of funny. I think of enjoying other people's home movies. I can remember when anybody, oh, look at me, I'm just covered with sand there. Rare that I would get my picture taken. Yes, oh yes, we're having a great time. Rare that I would get my picture taken because I was always the guy holding the camera. So therefore, I must say that probably was my wife, Diane, who's going to see me running out into the surf there in Antigua. Anyway, I always laugh about home movies because if anybody ever invited you to go to home movies back in the day when people were taking these back in the 40s and the 50s and the 60s, and they would invite you over, hey, come on over on Friday night, we're going to show you our home movies. We have a great 2-hour presentation of our trip to Indiana, and we think, oh boy, how can we come up with excuses to get out of that? Whew. That's got to be the most boring thing in the world. So what do? I take all my home movies and I digitize them so that I can put them out there and bore everybody to tears by watching them here, right here on the internet. Isn't that exciting? Oh, yes, yes. Well, if you ever wanted to see what Antigua looked like back in the year 1980, this was it. I want to see what my daughter Karen Lindstrom looked like back in 1980, or my son, or my wife, Diane Lindstrom. What did she look like in 1980? Well, there they are. Well, I'm sorry to say that Diane and I, we got a divorce in 1982, and she went on to have a good career, and she remarried a fine fellow by the name of Clark McClure, and she passed away from cancer, I'm sorry to say, in the year 2008, and she is greatly missed by lots of people, including my kids and including me. We always had a fine relationship. She was a very smart person and a great communicator, and it was always nice to be with her, even though at times she would get a little cranky with me, of course, and for good reason, because I deserved being cranky too, because sometimes I wasn't the greatest guy in the world, and I would have to say that the reason we got a divorce was all because of me. So there you have it. I take full responsibility for that. Now we're taking a cab ride, yes we are, somewhere in Antigua, visit that fabulous island, and see the sights. And one of the sights is my son, who is just turned 14 years old there, and my daughter, who is probably close to being 12, selecting a fine purchase from one of the street vendors. Yes, that's a nice, fine necklace that I'm sure you will enjoy for years. Okay. There's my son. Oh, wait a minute. What's he doing? I don't know. Can't tell. But anyway, somehow I have a feeling that we're either up high on a mountain. Oh, yes, we are. I was going to say either we're in an airplane or we're high overlooking Antigua. And there's my son, and he's overlooking Antigua. I'm looking at something else there. Great vacation. The Lindstrom family vacation from the year 1980. You can go out and have some more sea duty here. Gee, I'm sorry we forgot our surfboards. Looks like some pretty good surfing out there. We could do some body surfing, I suppose. Everybody had a good time. We all lived in North Scottsdale in those days at a house at 6420 East Gary Road. Yep. Well, I stayed a long time in broadcasting and was in promotions and did a lot of stuff. And in about 6 years from this film, I will get involved, or I should say 4 years, actually it was 1984, that I started, along with my partner Nancy Markham, we started the infomercial industry, which I'm known for. And a couple years ago, I was inducted into the Arizona Broadcasters Hall of Fame, which was certainly a great honor, and I appreciated that. That's very nice. And was in broadcasting from the time I was 15 years old. I owned some radio stations up in Bullhead City and Laughlin and in Payson, Arizona, and owned a lot of retail stores, as a matter of fact, also up there in Nevada. So had a rather varied career. But in 1980, we didn't know what the future was going to bring us. All we were doing was having lots of fun in the surf and the sand, and I was taking these pictures. And that's what they are. Home movies. 8mm Lindstrom home movies. And I hope you enjoyed them. And I say this to you. Thanks for watching.